Hello everyone! Today I want to share with you my closed ecosystem in a jar, also called jarrarium. I created this jar in December of 2024. At first, I was worried that there would be not much life in the water because it was collected in December. In Poland, this month is quite cold. But as it turns out, I was wrong. There was a lot of marine life in it. Remember that violet and red color in the video is simply because of the lamp that I'm using. Later in the video, the color of the water and of the jar will be normal. Also, some early footage might be a bit shaky or unclear. This is because I didn't immediately buy a microscope and I was actually using a magnifying glass in some of this footage. The first thing that I want to show you is worms. I have a lot of worms in this jar. I think those are Tubifex worms. And if you look closely in this footage, you can see a really long worm that is on the top layer of the sand. The thing about those worms is that they like to dig themselves into the sand, but leave some part of their body above the sand, and do those kind of funny movements that you see in the video. As I understand it, this is how those worms find food. So they move the water and eat whatever they find in the water. This is Daphnia, also known as water flea. These crustaceans have see-through bodies with helmet-like shell. They eat algae and bacteria as they hop around through the jar. They can reproduce both sexually and asexually, meaning that females are able to produce eggs without fertilization when conditions are favorable. On this footage, you can see something really quite interesting. This Daphnia is hopping around the glass, then stopping, and there is something coming out of her. Can you guess what that is? If you guessed that this is a female Daphnia that is laying eggs, you would be absolutely correct. This is another Daphnia, and from a slightly different angle. This Daphnia is just sitting on the glass and moving its legs around. Not sure if I can actually call those legs, but still. And this is the reason why I bought a microscope, to see those details. You cannot see those movements with a naked eye. Also in my jar, I saw Copepod. These are also crustaceans, much like Daphnia. While filming this, I was playing with my lamp and this scared this Copepod a bit, but it came back and continued sitting on the glass. And these are Tubifex worms that I showed before, but now under the microscope. As you can see, they're quite active, they have dig themselves into the sand, and they're doing this waving motion. Also, here's an interesting fact. From what I saw at how those worms dig themselves into the sand, the longer part of their body is actually below the sand. So what you're seeing now is a shorter part. So you can imagine those worms are really quite long. And this is something that you will definitely see if you observe those worms long enough. Yes, this worm is, let's say, producing waste. I really do hope that he feels way better after this. And here you can see where the jar got its name from. This is Mama Snail. I'm not a scientist, but from what I saw online, this is a species of either pond snail or bladder snail. I'm honestly not exactly sure. If you do, if you are a scientist or know for sure what this species is, please let me know in the comments. In a lot of ways, that was the most interesting thing to observe in this jar, because this snail was always active, even at night. I basically never saw it rest or just stay here. She was always licking glass, or plants, or anything else. She was constantly going around and licking everything. This snail has two very cute eyes and two even cuter ears. If you look closely at the shell of the snail, you can actually see its organs. So this shell is a little bit transparent, so you can see what's inside. As you can see on this footage, this snail's shell was not very clean. In fact, the snail had kind of a tail that's formed on its shell. The reason for this is, again, this snail was very active. And in my jar, there was quite a few algae on plants, sand, glass, basically everywhere. And therefore, when the snail was licking everything and going around everything, all these algae were forming on top of its shell. And after a while, there was so much algae that it basically formed kind of a tail. Also, if you look closely at the snail's shell and especially tail, you can see those white something that's growing on it. I have all the reasons to believe that this is a hydra. Even though visually hydra seems just like a plant, it's actually not. They have tube-shaped bodies and tentacles that reach out like tiny arms from their body. Hydras usually attach to something like a surface, jars glass, plants, or in this case, snail's tail, and they catch something that's passing in the water with their tentacles and put it inside their mouth. Hydras reproduce by simply growing a bud on their body that develops into a new hydra and then breaks off. Or sometimes hydra release eggs and sperm into the water. As I understand it, the reason why there is so many hydra on snail's tail is that it is a perfect spot for hydra. I mean, think about it. Hydras depend on water moving in order to catch their prey, in order to feed themselves. So when hydras are attached to a snail that is very active and moves non-stop, they have a much easier time feeding themselves. And even though hydras seem like parasites, I honestly don't think that snail even notices them, so I think it's okay. And here is the best footage of this snail that I managed to capture. Of course, this snail is licking everything that gets in its way. Take a guess, what is this white sac that the snail is checking out? I will give you some time to relax and think. If you guessed that those are snail's eggs, you would be absolutely correct. The snail eggs started to appear about 2 months after the jar was created and sealed. In total, I saw 6 individual snail egg clutches. Not all of them are present in this footage, since some of them were too far away from the glass. As you can see, there is some kind of a substance that's holding these eggs together, like a glue. This substance is called mucus. Over time, the mucus decomposes, releasing the eggs into the environment. Here you can see me playing with the lamp that I have to better see these eggs, since they were basically transparent. The most interesting thing about this situation is that I only had one snail in the jar. The fact that it laid eggs meant that it was already carrying them before I accidentally put it in the jar, or maybe it impregnated itself, which some snails are capable of. Because of this, I was worried that these eggs were not fertilized and are not going to hatch. Also, this snail was going near these eggs very often, and I thought it would eat those eggs. I know that some fish are known to do that. I don't know about snails. As it turned out, it all went well, maybe even too well, as you can see here. Suddenly, I had about 30 baby snails in my jar. I definitely didn't expect it, since I didn't plan to have even a single large creature in this jar. But now I had 30 of them. At first, these baby snails were near each other, making them very easy to count. But after a week or so, they were all over the jar. Just so you know, these tiny worm-like things around the snail are its feces. It seems like these snails are not really great at hygiene immediately after hatching. Look at this footage. There is so much going on. First, you can see a baby snail that just hatched a few days ago and is still probably just exploring the jar. On the snail's shell, you can see a copepod that seems to be curious about this baby snail. It's fascinating that this snail is almost the same size as this copepod, but this won't be for long. On the left, on the same branch, you can see at least 4 hydras. They are probably waiting for prey to get in their tentacles. And here is some more footage of the baby snails just exploring the jar. The unfortunate truth is that Mama Snail died about a week after eggs started to hatch. I'm not sure why, but maybe it was already old when I got it in the jar. In total, it lived for about 2.5 months in this jar. And here's the latest footage of this jar. It has been about 4 months since this jar was created and sealed. In the last month, this jar experienced a lot of plant growth. I think it's because the lamp is on for more hours than usual. Other reason for this might be season change, since algae and plant growth started in March, which is much warmer than December. Interestingly, some roots of the duckweed have detached and formed some sort of a clog in the middle of the jar. The duckweed itself looks healthy from the top, so I'm not sure why some roots have detached. On the white shots, you can see way more algae growth on the glass. This algae is very visible and even disrupts my ability to make new footage. Here is a close-up of this clog that formed with detached duckweed roots. While checking out the roots, I noticed what seems to be a Tubifex worm. This is new to me, since these worms are usually attached to the sand, as you saw previously. But I guess this particular worm decided to take a walk. And here is a close-up on the algae on the glass. You can see how this algae makes it harder to create new footage. Here, you can see roots of an unknown plant that experienced massive growth after being exposed to a lot of light. These roots have very interesting structure, and they are big enough that you can see them on the white shots as well. These black spots near the roots are waste from baby snails. Weirdly, baby snails decided to move outside the water, closer to the top of the jar. I don't know why they decided to do that. Maybe it's because they don't like the water with so much algae in it. I'm curious to see what they will do next. This has been a full journey of this ecosystem up until now. I will definitely make more videos about it in the future, so make sure to subscribe to not miss them. In the meantime, I want to create a new, bigger, and better ecosystem. I already have a jar prepared for it. So leave a comment if you want to see the full process of me creating this ecosystem. You can also check the video description for tech that I used, such as lamps and microscope. Microscope that I linked is great for beginners, as it's very easy to use and has a good price to value ratio. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for future ecosystems, leave them in the comment as well. See you in the next videos.